It's that time once again. The Cinema Chronicles on Nashville Movie Dispatch. I'm your host, of course, Brandon Vick, member of the Southeastern Film Critics Association and a board member of the Music City Film Critics Association, and the resident film critic of course, Nashville Movie Dispatch. It is almost October. We're only like a day or two away. And if the weather would just catch up, I'd be living in heaven, y'all. I'd be living in heaven. Honestly, I don't have much for this intro, and I think everyone's going to be super pumped about these movies. I'll be honest, I kind of just want to get through two of them so I can basically gush over the last one. But so be patient. But one big thing that happened is I got a year older this month. And I actually am one of those that still likes birthdays. I don't do as much for birthdays, but I still like to just have family and friends or go somewhere new to eat, or I don't know, just do something. I still, every now and then I'm like, you know what, maybe I won't get that now. I'll wait and put it on my birthday list. And I don't know if any other basically 40-year-olds do that, but I love it. Still do it. Same thing for Christmas. I have no shame. But I will tell you, I got, and this is what I'm going to take up everyone's time with, I'm going to tell you about some of the fun gifts I got. My wife, who was very thoughtful, got me a new brown jacket because one that I had got ripped because one day while we're in the house, we hear something, and anyway, our shelf fell and trapped. It was too heavy, I guess, but anyway, got all my jackets, and one ripped it clean down the arm, so my wife got me a new jacket, and she got me a book that it's called Horror Movie, and it's by Paul Tremblay, and he also wrote The Cabin at the End of the World that Knock at the Cabin, M. Night's movie, was based off of. I've read another one of his called The Pallbearers. I enjoy him, and now she didn't know that that's who that was. She got it because she, first of all, has had the movie in the title. She read about it and was like, oh, he'll like it. You know what? It's a good choice. And I promised myself I was going to read more this year. I have read, I think, 3 books this year. So I haven't done very good, but I am reading that one starting in October because it's a spooky book. And it's less than 300 pages, so I know I can do this. And then I got gift cards and stuff like that. But I was able to add 2 movies to my collection, and they're actually both A24 films. One of them is one of the best films of many years, The Brutalist. I finally got that one, and I also got what I called, and I think I got a few friends that would agree that it's one of probably the best comedy of the past decade, Friendship. And I've been really wanting to, I haven't watched it, haven't put it in yet, but I really want to see that extended scene of Tim Robinson and that guy in the garage when he's sitting at the drums. I'm really looking forward to that one. So yeah. And so yeah, I don't even know what I did for my birthday. I think we went to eat. My one request, and my wife hates it, is I request breakfast for dinner. She's not a breakfast for dinner kind of person. I don't even know if she really likes breakfast. But so we had French toast, and we had eggs and sausage, and so to be at my age, that was party rocking. So I was pretty happy with it. Next year, I turned the big 40, and I really would like to go to a theme park. I haven't done it in years. I may regret it because sometimes when we'll take my son to a park and I'll start swinging and I feel nauseous. So I don't know really how it's going to work out, but I don't know if I just want to go. It doesn't have to be anything big. We've got Kentucky Kingdom that's close to us, Holiday World, maybe Kings Island. I thought about Six Flags over Georgia, but honestly, it probably comes down to the rides because I really can't do, and I know Stoney would agree. Wooden roller coasters ain't my thing. I need some more. I need some metal. Give me some metal or those rides that let my feet dangle. So we'll see. I've already tried to put that in my wife's head of like, hey, you know what, maybe like towards the end of summer or, really in September is probably a good time to go because I think school's in. It's not as hot. So I'll let you guys know in the Cinema Chronicles of September 2026 if I get to go or not. So without further ado, let's get to these movies. Let's start with a spooky movie. It's final film in the Conjuring series, or so they say. And don't worry, that little bitch Annabelle's in it too. Next. All right, The Conjuring, Last Rites. And I'm going to share a synopsis. I don't even know if you need one, but it's per IMDb. Paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren take one last terrifying case involving mysterious entities they must confront. Now, that's just a broad, obviously, description in there, but I also saw a tweet that I totally related to after seeing this last one. It's Nate Adams. He's at The Only Critic. He says, 2013's The Conjuring was, at the time, the antithesis to the cliche-riddled possession and exorcism movies from the decade prior. Now, with The Last Rites, the franchise has come full circle and become the thing it once set out to combat. So that kind of sets it up to how this one ends up concluding. But the first two Conjuring films I think are pretty great. I like the first one the most, but I thought the second one was pretty damn good. I still remember the trailer for The Conjuring and the whole the clapping and those hands come out from the dresser, and it scared the shit out of me. And then Michael Chavez, he stepped in. Now, remember, it was Justin Lee who directed. That doesn't sound right to me, but who am I? I'm just a critic. Now I've got myself thinking. All right. Oh, close. James Wan. And what is making me really laugh is I think I got that Justin Lee name because it's a guy that works at my day job. So James Wan, he directed the first one, and he also, I think he directed the second one too. I know he was a producer on, he's been a producer on all of them. But James Wan kind of brought back the kind of horror that, you see his name on it. Now, granted, he also did Aquaman, but he's done. He did the Conjuring 2. He's done some Insidious. He did a couple of those movies. Dead Silence, with Saul. So he's a big deal in horror. I think I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, except that maybe his name's Justin Lee as well. But when Michael Chavez stepped in as the new director for the third Conjuring, called The Devil Made Me Do It, the bar got noticeably lowered. I feel like this series kind of went from great to generic. And Chavez has returned. He is behind the camera again for the final Warren investigation. And unfortunately, he continues to bring nothing fresh or new to the series. This is per a Toronto Star review of the film. It has this genuinely freaky with expertly staged set pieces that's courtesy of they called him the genre specialist, James Wan, talking about the way that the Conjuring film started, who has a real gift for rhythm and tone. Last Rites, who it says directed by Chavez, this is Byrne, who doesn't have much of a visual style and no sense of humor, is a problem when you're working almost exclusively with cliches. So, first of all, the Last Rites has no right being the longest Conjuring movie. It's over 2 hours. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes. I have no idea why it's that long. It's a bloated family drama with too many predictable and cheap jump scares. Any sense of tension is thrown right out the window. I will say the focus on the Warren family, which each film has always, within these possessions and demons, it's always kind of come back to family. So the focus on the Warren family does work better than anything else, and that's undoubtedly due to Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. They've always been the heart and soul of this franchise. I think their performances they've always been committed. They've been engaging. Squeezing the motion out of another still sweet sequel is a tall order, and they had to do it in the third one too. But they do their best. I feel like, excuse me, they're doing all they can. I think as the Warrens, they really do show this kind of honesty and this, like, they believed when no one else would believe any of these families that they have encountered. And again, focusing on that's where Last Rites at least tries to have a nice kind of farewell. And since this is the last one, supposedly, it's made a lot of money, so we'll see. But I must say, let's not forget that the Warrens, even though Wilson and Farmiga have made these two people very warm, welcoming, thoughtful, that they weren't actually the best of folks. Like I said, Wilson and Farmiga kind of make them seem like they are, but I think that's what people call acting. Also, just side note, they don't look, and if you've looked at the end of the films, they don't look anything like that real couple. So I guess what I'm saying is that these movies may not be totally accurate. But I mean, really no movie is, except for that one documentary, Forrest Gump. That's real. And actually, there is a episode of with Stoney and Rooster about the Warrens that is on Phone It In. So you can check that on Nashville Movie Dispatch. Continuing from that Toronto Star review that I quoted just a bit ago, in real life, though, the Warrens, devout Catholics given to spreading the good word about the church, were reviled by skeptics as scam artists, deftly peddling pseudoscience and parlaying their clients' superstition and their own gift for parlor tricks into a lucrative and headline-grabbing hustle. It says the Piece de Resistance, an occult museum containing all of the evil, in quotation, trinkets confiscated during the adventures. Their rationale was that it was better to keep all these dangerous items in one place under lock and key. For a price, of course, visitors could come by to look, but not touch. So I'm just throwing it out there that Patrick and Vera are very good at what they do, even when it comes to portraying people that I don't know if in real life people had a lot of faith in. But anyways, back to Last Rites. I do think diehard fans will find something to cherish in this. There's always something when it's, a series, it's ending. But the perseverance and strength and love of the Warren family just doesn't go as far as I think Chavez is hoping. And while a few scares may get you to jump, a few, so much is derivative and deficient. Almost everything involving the Smurl family, which is who's being possessed this time around, everything involving their family haunting is practically disregarded. And what we get is just, it's the routine stuff. We don't really get to know the family at all. And the story of the demons or whatever they are is just spewed out and done with. Like it's almost an afterthought. And it kind of involves just, these main three spirits that are in there. And it's I don't know. There's really just, there's nothing effective about it. And especially, I guess, as it's the fourth one. I mean, I'm not even counting the Annabelle sequels and the Nun sequels and all that stuff. It's just all been done before, and it's been done better. So the movie, I mean, honestly, Last Rites really just boils down to the Warrens' daughter. She's the main focus in this film. Being like her mom, and an antique mirror that wants revenge. And wait till you see that Warren family battle that mirror. It's not quite the way I imagined The Conjuring going out. The tagline and in all the previews was like the case that ended it all, as if like this was even too much for the Warrens to handle. Well, I will tell you, maybe in real life, but the movie certainly doesn't deliver on that. But yours truly did do a little bit of digging into the real case. Now, I've never done this for the other Conjuring movies because obviously everything is dramatized and it is Hollywood, and we get it. But the real case, which has been considered by many to be a hoax, there were reports that the husband and wife, the Smurl family, claim that they were sexually assaulted by the demon. Now, that, of course, is not in the movie, in case you're wondering. In that long 2 hours and 15 minutes, that's never shown. But I will say, personally, that's something that would probably make me call it quits, too. So, The Conjuring, Last Rites, overall, is getting a 2.5 out of 5. That might be a little generous, but I still think there's a lot within that Warren family dynamic that still delivers, and I think there is something about it being its swan song and kind of trying to incorporate the other Conjuring films and families. So 2.5 out of 5. Coming up next, Marlon Wayans is back, and he's like, "Hey, football, what's up?" Next. Him. This sports psychological horror that was produced by Jordan Peele. I think a lot of people thought he directed this. He did not. Monkey Paw Productions. Jordan Peele produced it. How can I put this for sports fans? Ends up settling for a field goal instead of scoring a touchdown. Per Rotten Tomatoes, Helm centers on a promising young football player, Tyreek Withers, invited to train at the isolated compound of a dynasty team's aging QB1. The legendary quarterback, played by Marlon Wayans, takes his protege on a blood-chilling journey into the inner sanctum of fame, power, and pursuit of excellence at any cost. The passion and the devotion that fans feel for their sports team, I think everyone can agree, is unlike anything else. Specifically football fans, win or lose, if you ever hear, they always say, we won or we lost. It's never they won or they lost, where it's like we're all in it together as if we're all on the field. But the passion and devotion combined with that perseverance and sacrifice is what the athlete is built on. As one of the movie's themes for the players, it's all kind of no guts, no glory. And director co-writer Justin Tipping really tries to capture a lot as far as like regarding the man, the athlete, their pain, their sacrifice, that feeling of invincibility. And at times, I will admit, his style and story works quite effectively, but other times it fumbles and becomes sterile and predictable. This is via IndieWire piece called Finding the Horror in Sports, Justin Tipping on him. He says Tipping had 2 sets of visual references for the film. He ended up looking for movies by directors of The Holy Mountain, Kubrick and The Shining, Adrian Lyne of Jacob's Ladder for inspiration, while also riffing on Nike ads and televised sporting events. And Tipping's quote is saying, "In just anything Lynchian with David Lynch, because of that uncanny valley of behavior that's neither here nor there, but it's close enough to reality that you buy it." So that makes sense. And I think with that inspiration, his approach does benefit him in some aspects, resulting in some interesting ideas at play. Visually, I think there's a lot of interesting things going on just in the way that using the colors, and there's some lighting choices that I think set a certain mood. They set a certain tone. The compound where a lot of the movie takes place, it can feel safe and then turn around and feel sinister. There are some, and I think they're even in the trailers, but I think I thought this was a nice choice. There's a lot of X-ray shots. When someone hits someone else, they kind of go in and you kind of see something getting pounded, something getting shifted, something getting broken. I thought it was a nice touch to show the brutality that football can be, of these big hosses hitting each other. Performance-wise, Marlon Wayans, I mean, I think it's the best of his career for sure. I think he's only done scary movies and White Chicks, so I don't know what you want to compare it to, but he really is. He is. His character Isaiah White is basically the Tom Brady of this football world, and there's this intensity that I didn't even know if Marlon Wayans could, because obviously he's such a popular figure in comedy, but he brings the intensity and then some insanity. He is, his character is, and he says it more than once, is in order of football, family, and God, and it's in that order. But he's quite commanding here. And for what does work, Tipping had to have that. And I think Marlon Wayans understood the assignment. It was a nice and welcoming surprise, just with what he was able to bring to it, and the force that he is on as is Isaiah White. Tyreek Withers, he's been in some stuff, but he was in that I Know What You Did Last Summer Legacy sequel, which also I didn't really like, but he was in that earlier this year. I think he delivers a strong performance here. I mean, again, try to go toe to toe, helmet to helmet, face to face with Marlon Wayans. I mean, appears to be a tough task just because of, like I said, the intensity that Wayans is bringing, and there's a lot of that kind of physicality to it. But Tyreek Withers is his character. He's kind of being handed the reins here, portraying the kind of the next GOAT, but he worships Isaiah, and since a kid, because it came from his father, and he ends up suffering some random attack that kind of puts his career in jeopardy, and so he ends up skipping the combine, which then ends up he gets the chance because White offers basically a deal he can't refuse, which is to go and train for a week with him, let him see how it's going, because basically he's seen as White's replacement. And I mean, why would Withers be? Why wouldn't he want to go train with his idol? Physically, Withers is also a perfect fit for this role, and now I know why, and you will too, because there's a Rolling Stone article saying how Tyreek Withers went from the gridiron to the big screen in him. And Withers was actually a former Division I athlete who played wide receiver for the Florida State Seminoles in 2017. They say so he's the perfect choice to portray Cam. And he says, as a former football player, Withers says he was able to channel Cam's athletic mindset, but he also realized the similarities between him and the character went beyond the gridiron. He's quoted saying, "I think we all can attest to wanting to be great at something. Following Cameron's journey, he rooted improving himself to not only his parents, but the exterior factors of coaches. It's a constant battle with what he can and can't do, and he's willing to commit his mind, soul, and body to get to the other side of success. The Jacksonville, Florida native underwent great physical conditioning for the role, including a 6-day-a-week workout and a 3-day-week quarterback seminar with former NFLer Jordan Palmer, alongside with players vying to actually make it into the NFL. Withers had never played quarterback at any level and had to learn the science of footwork, moving in open space, the importance of hip rotation and the throwing motion. Ends by saying to Withers, him transcends the game, serving instead as a universal story of what we're willing to sacrifice for our desires. He also appreciated the opportunity to present a more holistic portrayal of football players who are often seen as the epitome of impassive masculinity. Did I say that right? Epitome. I need to learn how to read. I think it's epitome. Cam, who grieves his father throughout the film, allowed Withers to show that even the toughest men in the world have their contemplative moments. On the exterior, there's this, I know what I'm doing, but in the interior, it's like I'm this little boy who just turned 18, trying to figure it out. Epitome. Nice. But for everything him has going for it, the movie cannot overcome its shortcomings. It's feeling futile in its overall examination of football and the physicality, the obsession, and the toxic masculinity of it all. The ending, I felt like, is a cop-out in a lot of ways. Rather than kind of stating something worthwhile about the mental and physical damage athletes suffer for and why, as well as just the commitment to be greater than great no matter the consequences, tipping just goes for blood and gore. And to me, that's boring. So this is via our buddy Sean at 615 Film. This was his review. It says, some may consider this offering him better than others will, but it's difficult not to be a bit frustrated by a film with Peele's name attached to it. Yes, he didn't write it or direct it, but if what he and his production company, Monkey Paw, saw in acquiring this project had been more fleshed out, it could have realized its potential, which is what we hope for any prospect who aspires to greatness in whatever sport they play. I thought that was well said and basically sums up what him is and what him could have been. And I leave you with tighten up. My VixFlix rating for him is 2.5 out of 5. A lot of that comes from, again, visually, there are some interesting ideas. Withers and Wayans are solid, but there's so much more that they could have dove into, and it's just unfortunate. So, coming up next, the one we've all been waiting for, and I'm here to confirm, PTA is a BMF, and I'll tell you why next. One battle after another. This is Paul Thomas Anderson's latest. It's also his 10th film. And, I didn't realize, but this one kind of represents a lot of firsts for him. First of all, it's his first film to be in, or most of it be in modern day. I didn't really think about that, but it is. It's his biggest budget he's ever had. I think it's well over $100 million, and the widest release any of his films have ever gotten. For One Battle After Another, PTA, he's talked about it. I've heard DiCaprio say, but he's been working on this for like 20 years. And I dare say it is his most bold, audacious, and visceral film to date. It's unlike anything he's done before. This is like a screwball action comedy thriller. There's also family drama. It's so many genres, but they blend in so flawlessly, and it's phenomenal. Before I go into the Rotten Tomatoes synopsis, just a reminder that we just did me, Brett, and Stoney just did a Paul Thomas Anderson podcast where we went over and discussed and ranked his other 9 films. So give that a listen to while you're at it. This is per Rotten Tomatoes. Bob, played by DiCaprio, is a washed-up revolutionary who lives in a state of stoned paranoia, surviving off-grid with his spirited and self-reliant daughter Willa, played by Chase Infinity. When his evil nemesis, that's Colonel Lockjaw, played by Sean Penn, resurfaces and Willa goes missing, the former radical scrambles to find her as both father and daughter battle the consequences of their past. So this is actually loosely based on a book by Thomas Pynchon called Vineland. If you don't remember, Paul Thomas Anderson adapted Inherent Vice from Thomas Pynchon, and I mean that's my least favorite PTA film. But this Vineland, and again, it's very loosely based on. PTA's been working on this for quite a while, but it's a 1990 novel that basically follows this teenage daughter of a former hippie as they search for her mother, who was like this radical from the 60s. The book is in like mid 80s, and it sort of explores the collapse of counterculture, the war on drugs, a lot of Reagan era politics as well. But the whole thing, like, I would say that One Bow After Another is Paul Thomas Anderson's most accessible movie. I'd say the first probably, 45 minutes maybe. There is, and I want to make sure that we get this right, but there is a Tiana Taylor plays Perfidia, and I think Perfidia Beverly Hills, and a lot of that is really about her and kind of their the resistance that she's a part of, that has Bob, who went by Rocket Man, goes by a lot of names, but Bob ends up becoming his, when he becomes in like witness protection, has to get out of town. I shouldn't say witness protection because he's certainly not with the government, but he goes into hiding. They got to change his name, but it's really all about kind of her and kind of what they're doing. And it's very grounded. It's very familiar to a lot of what is in the headlines and what is in the news today. And there's a lot of imagery that I think we have been witnessing for quite a while. So it's definitely relevant, definitely resonates. But a lot of that is kind of that, and then the relationship between Bob and Beverly Hills, and then obviously they have the daughter Willa. And the movie really takes a turn once their mother is caught and Bob and Willa have to become Bob and Willa and have to go into hiding. And that's when everything comes, because Colonel Stephen Lockjaw is played by Sean Penn, and we get introduced to him early on in the opening sequence of the French 75, which is part of the revolutionary group that Beverly Hills and Bob are a part of. They go into this detention camp center, and that's when they first meet Lockjaw, and that ends up in a domino effect of setting off this hunt that Lockjaw pursues and is relentless in his pursuit. But also there is this, without giving too much away, Beverly Hills and him, there's an attraction there as well, especially I think within this kind of power dynamic, and I'll leave it at that. But that will not be the last. That won't be the last time that they see Mr. Lockjaw. We're talking about the whole thing, like the whole film is. I mean, listen, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, but I promise you, it's the quickest 2 hours and 40 minutes that you may ever be a part of. It's relentless. It's propulsive. The way that the shots are, the way the camera works, the editing. It's almost in a once Willa kind of goes to her school dance. It's sort of kind of pedal to the metal on the way that the story goes, and the way things unfold. And it's, like I said, that's when it really sort of gets to this kind of thrilling element, and that's when kind of DiCaprio kind of kicks into gear too. And we'll get to the performance here in a minute, but it's so, I think what's great, and especially in the first 45 minutes, it's very much politically charged, but it's action fueled throughout. So you've got both of these elements, along with being tactile and playful. It kind of gets more playful again once we kind of get past their mother being caught, and we go 16 years later, and Bob and Willa. So there's that, and of course, I mean, we already talked about with the paranoia that's going on. But it is, I mean, it's hilarious. I don't think, for something, the way that especially the film begins and sort of the things that are happening, especially with Lockjaw's character, where it is, it can be quite disturbing. It's actually quite funny, and Benicio del Toro's sensei character adds a lot to that, but also so does DiCaprio, and again, we'll get to those in a minute. It's really, I'm almost amazed of, and I shouldn't be, just considering who PTA is. I think he's more than proven himself, but it's the whole film from beginning to end it's exciting and it's exhilarating, and it's also just like, it's pure entertaining. And that means a lot just as a common moviegoer. There is a lot that deals with generational ideology. That's a big proponent here, and sort of how what Willa's parents were fighting for, and I think in most ways had failed at, is different than Willa, and kind of what is their fight, and sort of what does she believe, and what her parents used to believe, and do they still believe, and this kind of takes different forms throughout one's life when you're young, and then now Bob is just basically a pothead, and he's not really putting up that good fight that they once did, but then it also feels like, is it getting passed down in a way? Because I'm sure Bob and Willa have had discussions on kind of what he believes, what her mom believed, and but the thing is that no matter what, and again, it's the politics of it, and the just the full on kind of like pursuit, the chase that Lockjaw is doing with this kind of French 75, and rounding up all of its members, and the car chases, which I'll get into that. There's an awesome one at the end, but there's a lot of action throughout. But there always comes back to, I felt like it always kind of come back to the many layers of what freedom is. There's the freedom, I think, in the most purest form, and then there's kind of freedom of freedom from your parents, freedom from a spouse, freedom as being a parent, and then that freedom of wanting to be on your own, wanting to have your own set of rules, your own beliefs. And I think this is a common theme, and I think we touched on it in our PTA podcast, but that at the end of the day, this really is a father-daughter movie, which, I mean, again, I think most of his films have always been about family, and this one is no exception. If I've been talking about, let's get into the performances here. Sorry, let me delete this. Oh. So let's start with DiCaprio. This is he's funny in it. He's charming, of course, but he's he is a pretty big goofball, which makes sense. I don't know if anybody who's seen the previews, most of the movie he's in a bathrobe, running around, getting into some shit with his bathrobe. And then I read that DiCaprio gave reference to Pacino in Dog Day Afternoon, but that he also, and I mean, this makes total sense because when we catch up with Bob 16 years later and Will is a teenager, clearly he is not the guy he once was, and he makes comment about how he pretty much his brain has been fried, but he's a big stoner, so of course he took some inspiration from the dude in The Big Lebowski, and that really shows. When like I said, when DiCaprio, once we kind of get to where it's just him and Willa, and he has this funny exchange with one of her friends who's picking her up for the dance, and I mean, again, it really, DiCaprio starts to do what he does best when we get to this portion, but you can see that he's really not only really disconnected from the world, but specifically disconnected from his daughter. But once she is taken, he is desperate to get her back. And even though he's kind of thrown into this kind of plan of action, and that he certainly cannot handle, and he's not really capable of doing, but it's his daughter, and he has no choice. And it's funny because there's times where, like, because he used to be a part of this revolutionary group, they have these codes and he can't remember them, and he's needing their help, and time's a ticking, and that ends up kind of bringing him to Benicio del Toro's Sensei. But it's funny because he can't remember stuff, and he has these like outbursts, which is, it's kind of like as he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where he forgets his lines. He's in the trailer. He has a few of those outbursts, which are hilarious. But I feel like DiCaprio has kind of hit this, and I think he's phenomenal at it. I think this is one of his best performances ever. But I feel like since really the kind of like Wolf of Wall Street, he's kind of really leaned into where he's not afraid to kind of mix it up with drama and comedy. And Wolf of Wall Street kind of felt like the first time I'd really kind of seen that side where he's going to be silly. A lot of it was like the physical comedy that he had in there. I just rewatched where he was on those pills and he's trying to get to the car and he opens the door with his foot and stuff like that. And so he's great. I hope he gets all the award recognition. I think Sean Penn is going to be the one that ends up kind of stealing the spotlight, but the whole cast is great. But what DiCaprio does in here, and that fine balance as also just in being basically the dude in an action movie where he has no right even doing some of the stuff he's doing. And DiCaprio in some interviews I'd seen where him and PTA wanted to make sure that even when his character Bob seems to sort of kind of be putting together and getting where he needs to go, he keeps failing. He keeps falling. And while funny, it also, there is this sense of like, yeah, you know what? He's not the same. He's not Rocket Man from 16 years ago. And I don't know, it really is. It works out great for who this guy is. And anyway, DiCaprio, I mean, listen, he's one of the greats. So, and this is just another sensational performance that that he delivers. Sean Penn as Lockjaw, he's very unsettling. He's menacing. He's vile. But there is a piece of this character that is, and I would say probably a huge piece of it actually, even though I don't think everyone sees it, but the scenes where he wants to join this group is that he's really seeking acceptance. There's just this venomous masculinity that kind of boils underneath this guy's like deep insecurities. And I really didn't know what to expect. I'd heard that, this could be Sean Penn's like next like big role. He could, could get nominated. He could win. He's a front runner for supporting actor, all this stuff. But I get it. I totally get it now because there is this, and Brett was texting me talking about just the sheer physicality of what Penn brings is astounding. There's this way that he kind of carries himself. There's this posture. He does these things with his face. He has this very sort of in a hurry, kind of rushing, sort of robotic walk that he does. I mean, he just embodies this character so well, and he's not a likable character at all. And I mean, his introduction at the beginning of the movie, I mean, already tells you there's something up with this guy. But Penn, I mean, this is one of his best performances ever, and I think probably the best in I don't know how many years. I mean, I do think as far as this film, you can't not. He's probably one of the first things. His Colonel Lockjaw is one of the first things you'll think about. For most things that were heinous and awful that this character, what he represents as far as this narcissism and this racism, but I also feel like there's more things involved, that the character is just not pure evil, even though he certainly can come off like that. There's Tiana Taylor, who I was talking about as Beverly Hills. She is a fiery character. That first kind of 45 minutes where we're kind of establishing the French 75 and everything that's gonna go on with Bob and the relationship that would result in her getting caught. She's in charge. Like, she is dominance. That's what she represents. She's used to being in charge. You can kind of tell that right from the get-go when she talks to DiCaprio, when she talks to Sean Penn, and even when she's pregnant, she's not the, let's just say she's not the motherly type. And so, but I do think her character feels like, to me, to be one of the most, if not the most complicated character, because of what kind of the personality that she has, the fight that she wants to bring, but also being a mother and being in control. And there's just a lot at play there with her character. I will say that she's not in it as much as maybe the trailer or anything may perceive, but obviously it's a very crucial role. But I think there's a lot that's underneath that character, especially. All of them have layers to them. I mean, Paul Thomas Anderson can write the hell out of some characters, but there's just something about her that I just found where I even would say I would be interested in even kind of seeing more of her, but I do like where they kind of separate and then start telling the story of just getting the daughter back. But yeah, I feel like there's some more layers to be peeled on for her, but she's great. She's great in it. Chase Infinity, she was in She was in some I think she was one of the kids in Presumed Innocent, the Jake Gyllenhaal Apple series, which was phenomenal if you haven't seen that. But this is her first film, and she is tremendous. The confidence that she has as an actor, the courage that her character portrays. She's the emotion. She's the heart of the film. There's been I've read in interviews where they finally kind of like that. A lot of people auditioning and Chase came in and kind of blew them away, and kind of the chemistry with her and DiCaprio was obviously very important because this father-daughter relationship is vital to everything else going on. I think there was one where DiCaprio's like, if we can't get behind her and we're not believing in her and what she's doing and the relationship that she has with her father, the rest of it will fall apart. And seeing it totally makes sense, but there is absolutely no sign of anything falling apart in that. She is, if this is like, to me, this feels like a Star is Born type of situation for Chase Infinity. And then we get to Benicio del Toro. I love him. I loved him in the Phoenician Scheme earlier this year. He plays a sensei who actually teaches Willa karate, but Bob ends up coming to him for help. I think we've seen that kind of play out in the trailers that they've shown. But there's a thing that comes from Nina Simone that basically says, "I'll tell you, what is freedom," and he says, "No fear." And Del Toro's character lives it. He is the scenes he is. First of all, there's great scene partners between Del Toro and DiCaprio, but there's this coolness and this calmness about this character when things are not going great and Bob is paranoid and panicking and trying to figure everything out and running all around. The way that he moves and I love the scene where he kind of goes back into their apartment and he's kind of doing his own revolutionary acts and of harboring people for safety, and but the way that he comes in and the way it moves and the way that like you can see how much of everything is so planned out while there's so much chaos happening, but in Del Toro's sensei character just keeps it together, like never even has time to give DiCaprio a beer while he also has a beer. It's he's fabulous in it. I really like him. He's one stellar sensei. Moving on, I wanted to focus. So there's a Forbes piece called 20 Years in the Making. One battle after another was like putting a Lego together. And it says, while the human drama and family are central themes in One Battle After Another, the thriller isn't light on action. What did Anderson learn from these scenes? And I loved it. I learned that it's a lot more boring than it looks when you see it in a film. He laughs. It certainly doesn't give you the intense satisfaction that it does working hand in hand in the scene with the actors. That's the most fun that you can have and the most satisfying. Sometimes doing that kind of stuff is like putting a Lego together. You have pieces, you need to get them, and sometimes you really have to hand over the set to stunt coordinators. He mentions Adam Somner, who was the assistant director and producer. He's like, you have to trust them to do the work, keep everybody safe, to do it well, and you actually have to take a back seat. You have to sit on your hands and let them get about the work of doing it. And to the buildup of the release, I know that Spielberg had said something about basically how the first hour of One Battle After Another has more action than all of PTA's other films combined. And I mean, he's right, because again, this truly is unlike anything that he's done before. But it should also be no surprise that it's enthralling from beginning to end. There's action at the beginning. There is some shootouts, some robberies. For them, this revolutionary, it's all kind of just consumed by the revolution, and the chaos that just totally envelops it. But and a lot of it is the political violence of it, and thinking that that's how the message should be sent. So it's a lot of action, shootouts, but there is a car chase that is towards the end, and it's extraordinary. The shots that are used to create it is thrilling as can be. It literally feels like you're on a wild roller coaster in the middle of nowhere in the desert. Up and down the hills, and I'm not going to spoil anything. It basically comes down to 3 cars and 3 people, and I was smiling the whole time. A part of that same Forbes piece, they ask how that they said, here's how Johnny Greenwood's score was key to PTA achieving his own one battle after another vision. Johnny Greenwood has worked with PTA before. Johnny Greenwood's part of Radiohead. It says a trademark of Anderson's films is a killer soundtrack, and One Battle After Another is no different. Once again, the film sees there's the reuniting of the longtime collaborator, PTA Johnny Greenwood. Said he's involved from the very beginning and has had this script for a long time. He's been writing music, but the important part is then hearing it. PTA continues, said we would watch dailies. We would be able to play the music that he was writing along with it. So everybody starts to really get a sense and understanding of the tone. Everybody gets that same music in their bodies, and it helps push us all along on a similar journey. It makes it exciting. Watching an hour of dailies of cars driving on hills can be really boring unless there's something compulsive behind it. So they had a sneak preview of that, talking to something very specific, very early on, hearing Steely Dan's Dirty Work on the way to work one morning, coming in and playing it for Leo. And I said, I think at the last minute here, I found your theme song. And yeah, and that car chase that I was talking about that's mentioned in there, that score totally amplifies everything, and it's magnificent. Continue on piece says, it's another little piece of art that you really hold in your pockets as you're trying to build something in pieces. It's always helpful to have something like music to grasp onto. We can all understand and feel what the rhythm is and the melody lines. It's an integral part of any film, but particularly acute here. The One Battle After Another director concludes, Johnny's music is always unique and special. We got a sneak preview of where this was going, what the tension was going to be, and what we needed to sustain. So it's a tremendous luxury to work like that, and it's because Johnny is steps ahead of us. The score, again, incredible. It's even though you can't see it, the score here really, it's an incredibly it's an incredible character that is heard and felt immensely. And it's one of the best I have heard, and the way that it plays, and sometimes it's kind of like a little bit of just you kind of hear one certain key or note, and then there's times where it's in full force, and it's awesome. One Battle After Another, I could honestly, I just recently saw this, and I'm sort of putting my thoughts together even as I'm speaking to you, but I could go on for another day or two, and not all of this is even the film itself hasn't even fully processed, I think, for me, but I think in the big scheme of things, with everything said, I think it's an absolute triumph of what PTA has done. I think it also serves, as much as it is about family, and that again, that is the heart of it, the father-daughter relationship. It's a rally cry to inspire change, not in the violent way that is depicted early on, because obviously it didn't work, and it ended up being very costly, where Willa and her father are both paying she's paying for her parents' pass, but I can't think of another film, especially within this time, that is not as urgent or as timely as this one. And the fact that PTA has been working on this for almost 20 years and even being loosely based off of a book, it's amazing of just how relevant it is. Like right now, how much of a reality this film is. And it only thing I can compare it to is sort of what Eddington did earlier this year. That was done by Ari Aster as far as dealing with the COVID and the pandemic. But even this is on a different level. It's really something to see in theaters. I've seen where people, Sean from 615 Film, he texted me the other day and said maybe the film of the decade so far. I've seen where it's been, one battle after another has been called the film of our times, and it's a modern American masterpiece. And you know what? I think all of that could be true. I definitely know this. The film gets more consequential and powerful as each day passes for me. So, I'll be talking about this one for a long time, but I am going to wrap it up on this one. One Battle After Another, in case you can't tell, is my first 5 out of 5 of 2025. Right, it's so well deserving of everything that's been said about that. I've seen where people are like, "Oh my gosh, this is way too much hype." It delivers on the hype. I haven't nearly done it as much justice as you going to see it for yourself. So that does it for another volume of these Cinema Chronicles. Again, I'm your host, Brandon Vick. Make sure to subscribe. Come out, listen, watch, read, whatever you want to do on NashvilleMovieDispatch.substack.com. We got stuff for the Nashville Film Festival. We've got a PTA podcast that would be, it goes greatly with what I've just done. So yeah, until next time, until next month, just go see a damn movie. Go.